No one panicked at first. Panic requires noise, sirens, explosions, something obvious enough to point at. What spread through Lagos Ascendant arrived without any of that. It arrived as a mistake. A missing line in the body's accounting. The city rose from the Atlantic like a scaffold of light and steel, a vertical sprawl of stacked neighborhoods stitched together by transit rails and skybridges. Millions lived their lives there, complaining about heat indexes, subscription fees, transit delays. No one complained about their immune systems. Until they failed. The first collapse happened in a third-floor clinic overlooking the docks. A nurse in her 40s, healthy, overworked, ordinary, felt dizzy during a routine scan and blamed dehydration. By the time the diagnostic wand finished its sweep, her heart rhythm had fractured into static. The machine screamed contradictions: catastrophic immune failure, accelerated cellular decay, no pathogen detected. She died before the system could generate a report. Within hours, the pattern repeated. A teenager collapsed mid-game on a rooftop court. A customs inspector slumped forward at his terminal, organs failing with terrifying efficiency. Hospital intakes doubled, then tripled. Doctors saw chaos, until the numbers stacked high enough to become design. By nightfall, Lagos Ascendant's emergency wards overflowed. What terrified the physicians wasn't the death rate. It was the precision. Across the planet, in an isolation lab mounted to the Hephaestus orbital ring, Dr. Amina Cowrie stared at the first clear scans and felt something rare crack through her professional composure: disbelief. The structure on her display was wrong. It wasn't a virus. It wasn't bacteria. It wasn't anything that fit inside Earth's evolutionary history. Instead, it was layered, nested protein shells wrapped around a lattice that rewrote itself while she watched. The thing didn't attach to immune cells blindly. It interrogated them.
"It's not attacking immediately," murmured Professor Henrik Langen, rubbing tired eyes. "It's testing. Sampling markers. Lineage. Variation." Amina said nothing. The simulation showed the structure altering itself, rejecting one immune profile after another, until it found the combination it wanted. Modern humans. Not Neanderthal remnants. Not ancient hominin markers. Us. "It's tuned," Henrik said quietly. "Designed for our genetic mess." The alert went out minutes later. Probable engineered bioweapon. On the bridge of the ISS Resolute Horizon, Admiral Leon Morovic read the report in silence. The projected casualty curves tightened his jaw, not from fear, but from recognition. This wasn't a warning shot. This was exterminated by whisper. His orders were immediate: full fleet readiness, orbital surveillance tightened, anomaly tracking prioritized. If someone had chosen to end humanity, they wouldn't stop with one delivery. On Earth, the public received a softer version. Novel pathogen identified. Symptoms under investigation. Remain calm. But fragments leaked. Data anomalies. Non-random structures. Words like engineered and non-terrestrial whispered through uncensored feeds. One of those feeds belonged to Nia Bako, a teenage data scavenger living in Lagos Ascendant. Her sister lay gasping on a mattress behind her as Nia turned on her camera. "They don't know what it is yet," she said, voice steady despite red eyes. "But they know it's precise. This thing looks at you and decides whether you're human enough to kill." She swallowed, anger sharp beneath the fear. Someone broke the rules. 3 days later, the galaxy learned who. Every unsecured screen on Earth flickered. Static gave way to impossible shapes, segmented forms crowned with pulsing antennae, their bodies translucent and geometrically exact. When they spoke, their voices were translated flawlessly, rehearsed and cold. "We are the Kharid Dominion," the central figure intoned. "Custodians of balance. Keepers of purity." Behind it bloomed a hologram of the structure Amina had studied. The abyssal bloom. A merciful correction. "Your species is a chaos vector. You destabilize systems. We have chosen to end the contamination. There would be no negotiation. No cure. Just silence. In the observation theater above Earth, no one spoke for several seconds. Then Marisol Danny of Helix Frontier Biotech broke the quiet. "They just showed us their masterpiece," she said. "And they're proud of it." Henrik leaned forward, eyes locked on the frozen hologram. "Anything this adaptive, anything this arrogant, can be taught." Amina felt the weight of that idea settle in her chest. If the bloom could learn how to kill them, it could learn something else. Admiral Morovic voiced what none of them dared frame as hope. "They believe we can't understand this weapon," he said. "That's their mistake. Survival isn't enough. If we live, we take it from them." Below them, Earth burned with quiet funerals and overcrowded hospitals. Above them, humanity made a decision it had never made before. They wouldn't just fight the plague. They would study it. They would break it. And if they survived long enough, they would turn it into something the Dominion never imagined. Rehook, the abyssal bloom had been designed to erase humanity. What no one yet knew was that, in a handful of infected bodies, it had hesitated. That hesitation would change the fate of the galaxy. The abyssal bloom was supposed to be perfect. Perfect weapons did not hesitate. Yet across Earth, buried beneath millions of collapsing immune systems, a statistical anomaly began to surface, first as noise, then as a signal too sharp to ignore. Dr. Amina Kauri noticed it at 3:17 station time. She had been awake for nearly 40 hours, subsisting on nutrient gel and stubbornness, reviewing host-response overlays that blurred together in endless permutations of death. Most samples followed the same trajectory: exposure, interrogation, rapid immune unraveling. But a few did not. "These shouldn't be alive," Henrik muttered, leaning over her shoulder. Amina enlarged the display. 3 patients from Lagos Ascendant. 1 from rural Argentina. 2 more from an orbital maintenance crew. All infected. All alive. Barely, but undeniably. The bloom's internal architecture inside their bodies showed frantic activity. Adaptive loops spiraled, folded, then doubled back on themselves. It tested. Retested. Paused. "It's confused," Henrik said, awe creeping into his voice. "It doesn't know how to finish them." Amina's fingers trembled, not from exhaustion, but from the implication. Anything capable of confusion could be influenced. They tore through the data. Genomes, microbiomes, immunological histories. The survivors weren't special in any obvious way, no engineered immunity, no alien ancestry. What they shared was noise. Genetic scars from ancient infections. Residual fragments from long-dead viruses. Immune systems shaped by chaos rather than optimization. "The bloom expects cleanliness," Amina said slowly. "Predictability. And we're messy," Henrik finished. That mess was humanity's first crack in extinction. On Earth, the discovery meant nothing yet. Hospitals still overflowed. Cremation lines still burned through the night. Nia Bako's sister died 12 hours before dawn, her body giving out quietly as if embarrassed by the noise around it. Nia didn't scream. She recorded. "They want us quiet," she told her rapidly growing audience, voice shaking with controlled fury. "They designed this thing to erase us without witnesses. Don't give them silence." Her footage spread faster than official briefings. So did panic. And desperation. When Amina proposed human trials, the ethics board nearly imploded. "You're suggesting we inject fragments of an alien extermination weapon into volunteers," one member said flatly. "That's not medicine. That's insanity." Amina didn't argue emotionally. She showed them projections. Without intervention, extinction curves bent sharply downward. With controlled exposure, guided, constrained, the bloom's hesitation could be exploited. "We don't neutralize it," she said. "We redirect it." Silence followed. Then volunteers arrived. Doctors. First responders. Soldiers. People already marked by exposure who knew the clock was ticking anyway. Sergeant Talia Seo stood at the front of the line. "My squad died in under 5 minutes," she said, eyes steady. "If this thing wants to learn, let it learn on me." The first infusion nearly killed her. Monitors screamed as the bloom fragments surged through her bloodstream, colliding with immune cells like scouts entering hostile territory. Fever spiked. Muscles seized. Amina hovered over the controls, one command away from aborting. Then the data stabilized. The bloom adjusted. Instead of collapsing pathways, it reinforced them. Instead of triggering organ failure, it dampened runaway responses. "It's cooperating," Henrik whispered. Talia gasped, then breathed easier. When she woke hours later, her immune markers didn't just recover. They improved. Helix Frontier Biotech moved fast. Too fast for comfort. Marisol Dani authorized the construction of sealed bioreactors, feeding the bloom-controlled environments, forcing it to adapt under human supervision. "We're domesticating it," she said without apology. "Same way we domesticated fire." Amina hated how accurate that sounded. The leak happened anyway. Ghost Orchard cracked Helix's data vaults and dumped everything, unfinished protocols, raw survival curves, speculative notes, onto the open net. The world exploded. Some called it hope. Others called it theft. But the headline stuck. "Aliens sent a plague to wipe US out, humans are bottling it as medicine." Protests erupted. Demands flooded clinics. Black market versions appeared within days. Admiral Morovic didn't rage. He authorized controlled release. "Better they get it from us," he said quietly. Then from desperation. When the Kharid Dominion saw the feeds, disbelief curdled into fury. Archseer Vicar watched a human nurse inject a child with bloom-derived therapy and felt something close to sacrilege. "They steal correction," he hissed. "They turn purification into profit." His answer was escalation. The Dominion fleet began to move. Humanity had survived the plague. Now the Dominion was coming to finish the job, with warships. And the medicine that saved Earth was about to become something far more dangerous. "Aliens sent a plague to wipe US out, humans are bottling it as medicine." Protests erupted. Demands flooded clinics. Black market versions appeared within days. Admiral Morovic didn't rage. He authorized controlled release. "Better they get it from us," he said quietly. Then from desperation. When the Kharid Dominion saw the feeds, disbelief curdled into fury. Archseer Vicar watched a human nurse inject a child with bloom-derived therapy and felt something close to sacrilege. "They steal correction," he hissed. "They turn purification into profit." His answer was escalation. The Dominion fleet began to move. Humanity had survived the plague. Now the Dominion was coming to finish the job, with warships. And the medicine that saved Earth was about to become something far more dangerous. The world was burning quietly. Hospitals overflowed with pale bodies, and the news feeds were silent except for the occasional desperate report from a quarantined city. The abyssal bloom wasn't just a pathogen, it was a masterpiece of destruction, a weapon designed to make humanity vanish without anyone outside noticing. But the human mind was messy, chaotic, unpredictable. And it had survived before against odds that should have been impossible. Dr. Elena Voss stared at the microscope slide in front of her, sweat pooling on her brow. The virus genetic code glimmered under the biolab's ultraviolet lights, and she saw the pattern no one else had noticed, a subtle instability, a flaw in the Dominion's design. If manipulated carefully, it could be turned, upside down. She felt a thrill that was equal parts excitement and terror. "Are you sure this is safe?" her assistant, Liam, asked, his voice shaking. He had been her shadow for months, and now he looked more like a scared child than a colleague. "No," Elena said without hesitation. "But nothing worth doing is." She tapped the screen, highlighting the mutation sequences. "If we reverse the active binding proteins, we can make the virus attack itself instead of the host. Humanity's immune response could turn it into a vaccine, or better, a weapon against them." The room went silent except for the hum of machines. Liam swallowed hard. "You're saying, we could sell it back to them?" Elena's eyes burned with determination. "Exactly. But first, we survive. Then, we fight. And we make sure they pay attention when we do." Outside, the streets were chaos. Governments had collapsed, the Kharid Dominion's silent war had left human society in fragments. Small groups scavenged through ruins while others barricaded themselves in makeshift fortresses. Some had already succumbed to the bloom, coughing violently, skin mottled with the alien disease. And yet, the stories of survivors, of small towns that refused to fall, were spreading faster than fear itself. Humanity was adapting. Elena's team worked in shifts, isolating the virus and testing their modified strains. Every success felt like defiance, every failure like the end of the world. They were playing a dangerous game. One slip and the bloom would escape containment, turning them from the hunters into the hunted. Weeks passed in a blur. The lab became a war zone of its own. Broken vials littered counters. Screens displayed ever-changing genomic data. And through it all, Elena's plan unfolded. She wasn't just creating a cure, she was forging humanity's signature of chaos, a mirror to the Dominion's arrogance. Then, the breakthrough came. A test sample exposed to the modified virus responded exactly as hoped. The bloom's replication turned inward. Infected cells self-destructed, leaving the host unharmed. The room erupted in a mixture of cheers and tears. Humanity had turned the invader's weapon into a lifeline. But Elena knew the victory was only the beginning. "We can't just sit here," she said, looking at her team. "The Dominion will come. They always do. And they'll want their plague back. We have to be ready, not just to defend ourselves, but to make them pay for every life they tried to erase." Outside the lab, the sky burned orange as the sun rose over a fractured city. Fires smoldered, and the wind carried the faint, acrid smell of destruction. Humanity was weak, but alive. And in the shadows, the first whispers of retaliation began to take shape. Elena looked at the vial in her hand, the glowing symbol of human ingenuity. "They think they can control the universe," she muttered. "They don't know what chaos really looks like." Somewhere in the distance, an alien scouting vessel adjusted its trajectory toward Earth. It had detected the outbreak, assumed eradication was complete. It was wrong. The game had just changed, and this time, humanity wasn't playing by their rules. The countdown to the next phase had begun. Humanity has reversed the alien bioweapon, but the Dominion is coming. Will the humans survive the inevitable retaliation, or will this victory be their last? The night was electric with tension. Elena's lab had become more than a research facility, it was the command center for humanity's counterstrike. Screens displayed real-time scans of Dominion fleets approaching the solar system, their movements precise, methodical, as if death itself had a rhythm. "Distance to the outer orbital entry point?" Liam asked, his hands trembling over the console. 2 hours, Elena replied, her voice steady but tight. "By then, we'll have the first batch ready. And remember," she paused, letting the weight of her words sink in. "This isn't just about defense. It's about sending a message." Outside, the cities still bore scars of the initial bloom outbreak. Fires smoldered in abandoned buildings. Smoke choked the air, carrying with it the scent of fear and decay. Yet, amidst the ruins, humanity had begun to fight back. Makeshift militias patrolled the streets, armed with scavenged weapons and raw determination. They weren't organized, they weren't perfect, but they were alive, and alive was enough. Elena moved among her team, checking every vial, every containment unit, every line of code. "This is it," she whispered. "We either turn their plague against them, or die trying." The first Dominion probes appeared on the orbital scanners, sleek, angular vessels, their surfaces reflecting the cold light of distant stars. They carried no flags, no diplomacy. Only precision and intent. The Dominion had assumed Earth was already lost. They had assumed humanity was finished. They were wrong. "Deploy the modified bloom," Elena ordered. Her voice carried across the lab's comms, reaching every satellite-linked dispersal unit orbiting Earth. The vials released their contents into controlled vectors, tiny, engineered nanobots carrying the virus, programmed to reverse the bloom's deadly effects and, when the Dominion came close enough, deliver it back to them. In the first moments, there was a tense silence. Then the readings came in, the virus was stable, replicating precisely as predicted. Infected human cells responded correctly, immune systems activated, and, most importantly, the dispersal units were moving toward the Dominion fleet undetected. Liam exhaled shakily. "It's beautiful," he said. "In a terrifying way." Elena didn't answer. She was watching the orbital feed, eyes scanning for any anomaly. Humans had survived the bloom, yes, but survival was only the first step. Retaliation required precision, timing, and ruthlessness. The first Dominion ship crossed into Earth's upper atmosphere. Its sensors should have detected the modified bloom immediately, but they didn't. It was too confident, too arrogant. Too alien. Then came the first casualties. One vessel lit up the orbital display in a burst of white-hot fire, systems failing from within. The bloom had turned inward. Alien crew members scrambled, trying to contain a pathogen they had designed as perfect. But perfection had a flaw, and humans had found it. Cheers erupted in the lab, but Elena silenced them with a raised hand. "Not yet," she said. "This is only the beginning." The Dominion fleet faltered, confusion rippling through their ranks. Humans on the streets looked up at the sky, unaware of the microscopic war unfolding above them, yet feeling its effects, the first shockwave of hope. Elena turned to Liam. "Prepare the next batch. They'll adapt quickly, and we need to stay ahead." He nodded, swallowing hard. "They'll come down, won't they?" "They will," Elena said. "But they don't know chaos yet. They don't know what humanity is capable of when pushed to the edge." Outside the lab, a distant explosion illuminated the horizon. One of the Dominion ships, attempting evasive maneuvers, had collided with a derelict satellite, sparking a chain reaction. Humanity's message was clear: Earth was no longer a passive victim. Elena held the vial close, feeling its weight, both literal and symbolic. It was more than a weapon, it was a promise. A promise that humans, no matter the odds, would not go quietly. The Dominion had underestimated them. The galaxy had underestimated them. But now, the scales were tipping. And when the first strike reached the alien command fleet, the true chaos of humanity would be unleashed. The countdown was no longer a prediction, it was a war signal. Humanity's counterattack has begun, but the Dominion is massive, organized, and deadly. Will the modified bloom be enough to turn the tide before Earth becomes a battlefield of extinction? The first light of dawn painted the sky over Earth in muted shades of orange and gray, but it could not mask the scars of survival. Cities had become fortresses, streets littered with the remnants of abandoned vehicles and collapsed buildings. Humanity had been pushed to the brink, yet they endured. And in the shadow of devastation, a new force was rising, one born from the very weapon meant to erase them. In the orbital command lab, Dr. Elena Voss stood at the center of a room buzzing with activity. Every screen displayed a different battlefield, the orbital dispersal units releasing the modified bloom, the Dominion vessels faltering as the pathogen infiltrated their systems, and human survivors fortifying positions across continents. Her team worked in a precise, chaotic rhythm, like a symphony orchestrated by desperation and genius. Status on Fleet Cluster Delta? Elena asked, eyes scanning the holographic feed. Liam's fingers flew across the console. They're breaking formation. Systems failing. The modified bloom is propagating faster than we predicted. Their shields are collapsing under internal sabotage, not even from external weapons. Elena allowed herself a brief nod. It was beautiful in a terrifying, elegant way, the invader's perfection undone by the ingenuity of its prey. Humans had always adapted, and now, they were turning the tools of annihilation into instruments of revenge. Above, Dominion ships flickered like dying stars. One after another, they emitted bursts of light as systems overloaded from within. Their navigational arrays scrambled. Energy conduits melted. Crew compartments went dark. The humans had not just fought back, they had rewritten the rules of engagement. But this victory came with a cost. The bloom's dispersal was delicate. One miscalculation, one containment breach, and it could harm the very people they were trying to save. Every scientist, every technician, every volunteer carried that weight like a sword dangling over their heads. Elena moved to the main console, her reflection mirrored in the display. She could feel the gravity of what they were doing, rewriting the predator-prey dynamic on a cosmic scale. Humans had been hunted for centuries, underestimated for millennia. Now, they were the hunters, and the Dominion had no idea how to respond to chaos. Prepare the secondary wave, she instructed, her voice calm but commanding. We need to force them closer, make them panic. The bloom is effective, but only if we guide it into the heart of their fleet. Her team obeyed instantly, coordinating dispersal vectors with an uncanny precision. They weren't just scientists, they were strategists, tacticians, and warriors in their own right. Each nanobot carrying the modified virus was a tiny missile of defiance. Humanity had taken what was meant to destroy them and forged it into a weapon of justice. Meanwhile, on the ground, human militias took inspiration from orbital victories. Word spread through makeshift networks, through radios and encrypted signals, the Dominion was not invincible. Humans fought back in pockets of resistance, hitting supply lines, ambushing scouting. And taking advantage of every weak point left exposed by the chaos above. Fear turned to courage, despair into strategy. Elena watched the feed as one Dominion vessel attempted to escape. It sped toward the outer solar system, but the bloom had already infiltrated its systems. Alarms screamed across its hull as internal mechanisms shut down, the alien crew trapped in failing compartments. The first survivors on Earth caught a glimpse of the sky, bright flashes marking the fall of the invaders. Humanity's message was unmistakable, Earth was alive, and it would not kneel. Adjust the dispersion patterns, Elena ordered. We can't let them recover. Push them into the dead zones where they can't retreat or regroup. Liam hesitated. Doctor, this could be dangerous. The zones are unstable, radiation levels, debris fields. Exactly, Elena said, cutting him off. Danger is our advantage. They rely on perfection, they cannot adapt to chaos like we can. That's why we survive. That's why we win. And win they did, at least for now. Dominion vessels collided with space debris or malfunctioned under internal viral sabotage, turning the black void into a tapestry of explosions. Each ship that fell was a declaration, each cascading fireball a symbol of human ingenuity. The aliens had crafted a weapon to erase humanity, yet it was humanity who had turned the weapon into a mirror, reflecting the Dominion's arrogance back at them. Still, Elena knew this was only the first stage. The Dominion's main fleet had not yet arrived. Their command ship, vast and imposing, lurked in the outer solar system, monitoring the situation. They were calculating, adjusting, preparing to respond. Humanity had scored a victory, but the war was far from over. She turned to her team, voice rising above the hum of machines. We have shown them we are not prey. We have turned their weapon against them. But the real fight is coming. They will adapt. They will retaliate. And when they do, we must be ready, not just to survive, but to strike back harder. The first wave of survivors cheered in the streets, unaware of the cosmic war unfolding above them. In basements and bunkers, humanity celebrated its ingenuity and its defiance. For the first time, they were not just surviving, they were reclaiming agency over their fate. Elena held the vial containing the modified bloom close, feeling its weight in her hand. It was more than a weapon. It was a symbol, a testament to the human spirit's refusal to be extinguished. Humanity had been hunted, tested, and nearly broken. Yet here they were, standing on the brink of a new era. Above, the stars seemed to pulse with the approaching Dominion fleet. Their arrogance had blinded them. They had assumed perfection would prevail. They had not accounted for chaos. They had not accounted for humans. And chaos, as always, was human-made. Humanity has turned the bloom into a weapon of vengeance, and the Dominion fleet is faltering, but the main command ship looms in the outer system. Will humanity survive the next wave, or is the greatest battle yet to come? The void above Earth was alive with chaos. Shattered fragments of Dominion vessels drifted like stars falling from a corrupted constellation. Fires burned in orbit, and the faint hum of the modified bloom rippled through space, invisible but devastating. Humanity had turned the invaders' perfect weapon into a mirror of their own ingenuity, and now the Dominion was beginning to understand the cost of underestimating humans. Dr. Elena Voss stood at the orbital command console, flanked by her team. Every movement was precise, each decision calculated. The modified bloom had decimated the outer fleet, but the Dominion command ship, immense, angular, bristling with technology, remained in the shadows, calculating its response. Scans indicate structural integrity is holding at 92%, Liam said, voice tense. They're analyzing the bloom, trying to counteract it. They'll fail, Elena replied. They've never seen chaos like this. They've never seen humans fight like this. Her eyes, sharp and unyielding, scanned the approaching vessel. Prepare the secondary dispersal. Target the command arrays. If we can disrupt their communications and navigation, the rest of their fleet will crumble without orders. The team worked in silence, knowing the stakes. One miscalculation could reverse everything, the bloom could destabilize prematurely, or the Dominion could adapt faster than anticipated. Yet humanity thrived in pressure. They had no choice but to turn fear into action, chaos into precision. Above, Dominion scouts flared like angry fireflies, trying to track the dispersal units. The alien sensors, designed to detect even the faintest microbial signature, faltered against the human-engineered vectors. Each nanobot was a missile of defiance, each virus-laden probe a strike against an empire that had believed humanity to be insignificant. Dispersal units ready, Elena said. Now. Across the void, the modified bloom swept toward the command ship. Unlike its initial targets, this was no ordinary vessel, it was a fortress. Its shields were immense, powered by a fusion of alien energy and advanced fields of impenetrable matter. But Elena's calculations were precise. She had found the weak points, areas where their own technology had a blind spot, where their arrogance assumed immunity. The first wave hit the outer hull. Shields flickered, then stabilized. The Dominion crew, confident and precise, began countermeasures, but the humans had anticipated them. Secondary waves followed milliseconds later, targeting internal systems already compromised by the modified bloom. Lights flickered across the command ship. Alarms screamed. Control modules overloaded. And then, chaos spread from core to periphery. On Earth, civilians looked to the skies as distant flashes illuminated the horizon. Orbital battles were abstract, almost mythic to those on the ground, but the effect was tangible. Relief, hope, and awe surged through humanity. Their ingenuity was not only surviving, it was thriving. Command arrays are offline, Liam reported, astonished. They can't coordinate the fleet. Good, Elena said, a sharp edge of satisfaction in her tone. Now we make them feel chaos. The modified Bloom, programmed to target key structural and neural systems, began infiltrating the ship's bridge, the nerve centers where alien officers tried to maintain order. Systems that were supposed to be invincible failed one by one. The Dominion crew scrambled, but their efficiency was meaningless against an enemy that had learned to fight without rules. Humanity fought not only with technology but with unpredictability, the most alien force in the galaxy, the human mind. Secondary dispersal complete, Elena said. All units on orbital rotation, maintain vector. We can't let them regroup. The command ship trembled, then emitted a high-pitched resonance as internal systems collapsed. One by one, smaller Dominion vessels disconnected or drifted helplessly, unable to function without centralized command. For the first time, the invaders understood fear, not the fear of death, but the fear of chaos itself. Liam turned to Elena, voice quiet. "Doctor, we're doing it. We're winning." Elena's gaze didn't leave the feed. "We're surviving," she corrected. "Winning comes later. They'll adapt. They always do. But for now, we have leverage." And leverage they had. Humanity had not only survived the Bloom, they had transformed it into a weapon of cosmic retaliation. The Dominion's arrogance had become their greatest weakness. In the vastness of space, humans had carved a message into reality: underestimate us at your peril. Even in the command ship's remnants, alien officers struggled to comprehend what was happening. Their calculations had been flawless, until chaos, raw and human, proved a variable they had never considered. This was more than a battle. This was a lesson in survival, ingenuity, and unpredictability. Elena held the vial of the modified Bloom, watching the Dominion fleet flounder. "This is just the beginning," she said softly. "They've underestimated us for too long. They've assumed perfection wins. But chaos is human." As the outer fleet continued to disintegrate, signals of surrender or retreat flickered across the scanners. For the first time in recorded history, humanity had forced an alien empire to hesitate. And that hesitation, fragile and fleeting, was all humans needed. The real war had just begun. The Dominion's main forces were still approaching, but now, humans had the upper hand: knowledge, ingenuity, and the one force that no alien weapon could control: unpredictable human will. Elena allowed herself a brief smile. "We've shown them the cost of underestimating Earth," she said. "Now, we take the fight to them. The Dominion fleet is faltering under humanity's chaos, but the main forces are still approaching. Can humans maintain their advantage, or is the final reckoning yet to come?" The Dominion command fleet hovered at the edge of the solar system like a dark, waiting storm. Their massive ships, bristling with weaponry and shielded in alien perfection, had begun to understand that Earth was no longer the passive prey they had expected. Humanity had survived the Bloom, had turned it into a weapon of retaliation, and had just shattered the first wave of their orbital forces. But the command ship loomed, vast, terrifying, a fortress built to crush anything that dared challenge it. In the orbital command lab, Dr. Elena Voss stood over a holographic projection of the Dominion fleet. Every flicker, every movement, every weak point had been calculated, measured, and marked. Her team worked in seamless coordination: scientists became tacticians, engineers became strategists, and the very chaos of humanity became their advantage. "Distance to the command ship?" Liam asked, his voice tense. 7 hours, Elena replied. "They're moving cautiously, but they're coming. And when they arrive, we hit them where it hurts most." The plan was audacious. Humanity would not wait to defend, they would strike. The modified Bloom would serve as a precision weapon, a virus-laden spear designed to penetrate the command ship's defenses. But this time, it wouldn't be a scattershot attack. They had mapped the entire fleet, predicted patterns, and designed dispersal vectors that would bypass shields, sensors, and even adaptive countermeasures. Humans had become unpredictability incarnate. "Secondary dispersal units are ready," Elena said, her eyes scanning the projection. Launch in 10 minutes. Target internal command arrays and core energy conduits. Liam swallowed hard. This could destabilize the entire ship. Are we ready for what happens next? Elena's gaze was steady. We have to be. They've underestimated us. They've always underestimated humans. Chaos isn't just a weapon, it's our nature. Above, the command ship moved into position. Its sensors were hyper-focused, attempting to detect the incoming dispersal units. But the humans had anticipated this. The nanobots carrying the modified bloom were programmed to exploit blind spots in alien algorithms, slipping past shields and defenses like ghosts in the void. Launch in 5, 4, 3, Elena counted, her voice calm. The units released, racing toward the alien vessel with calculated precision. At first, nothing seemed to happen. The command ship glowed faintly under the strain of its internal defenses, and alien officers moved frantically to counteract what they perceived as minor system anomalies. But then the first internal systems began to fail. Lights flickered across the bridge. Navigation arrays faltered. Energy conduits overloaded. The modified bloom spread like wildfire, rewriting the invaders' systems from the inside out. Crew members attempted to contain it, but their technology was too rigid, too precise. Chaos, unpredictable and human, had no rules. On Earth, people looked up at the sky as distant flashes marked the destruction of alien vessels. Fires in orbit illuminated the horizon like a second dawn. Humanity had turned survival into spectacle, defiance into art. Militias coordinated with orbital strikes, ambushing scouting drones, cutting off supply lines, and exploiting the confusion above. Every move, every attack, amplified the chaos in space. Command arrays offline, Liam said, awe creeping into his voice. They can't coordinate the fleet. Good, Elena said. Now we push further. The humans weren't content with mere survival. They struck at the heart of the command ship, targeting critical nodes and weak points. The bloom destabilized the core energy systems, causing cascading failures. Alien vessels, without guidance, collided, spun out of control, or drifted helplessly. Perfection was failing under unpredictability, and humanity's ingenuity thrived in the gaps. Elena watched, calculating, predicting the next moments. Deploy tertiary units. We need total systemic collapse. Don't give them a chance to adapt. The modified bloom infiltrated every subsystem it could reach: navigation, energy distribution, communications. The command ship shuddered as internal compartments sealed automatically in panic. Alien officers screamed orders into silence, their meticulously calculated strategies unraveling under the unpredictable human assault. Even as the command ship faltered, the Dominion attempted countermeasures. Adaptive shields activated, weapon arrays powered up, but the humans had anticipated every move. Dispersal units redirected, algorithms adjusted in real time, chaos folded back on itself like origami, weaponized precision born from human creativity. Main power conduits critical, Liam said. If we hit them now, the entire fleet will destabilize. Elena nodded. Do it. Every unit, every nanobot, every modified bloom vector, target the heart. The command ship exploded from within, a starburst of fire and debris that lit the void. Smaller vessels faltered, collided, or drifted aimlessly, systems overloaded and crews incapacitated. Humanity had turned survival into counteroffensive. They had done what no other species had managed, they had made the Dominion taste their own perfection, and it had crumbled. In the lab, Elena exhaled slowly. We've shown them, she said, voice quiet but resolute, what it means to underestimate humans. This is only the beginning. They will regroup. They always do. But now, they know fear. On the ground, people cheered. Survivors embraced, knowing their ingenuity and defiance had turned a cosmic predator into prey. Humanity had survived extinction. Humanity had fought back. Humanity had won, at least for now. But the war was far from over. The Dominion had vast resources, endless calculation, and an empire that would not tolerate failure. Humanity had survived the first strike, but the galaxy was still watching. And humans, unpredictable, chaotic, and indomitable, were ready. Elena held the vial of the modified bloom, a symbol of human ingenuity and defiance. "We've turned their weapon into our strength," she whispered. "And we will continue. We will survive. We will fight. Because that is what humans do." Above, the stars were silent witnesses to a new era. One where humanity was no longer prey. One where chaos, ingenuity, and sheer determination defined the apex of survival. The Dominion would remember this day. The galaxy would remember. And humans would not forget. Humanity has struck the Dominion fleet at its core, showing that chaos is their greatest weapon, but the Dominion Empire is vast and relentless. How far will humanity's ingenuity carry them before the ultimate confrontation arrives? The void of space was alive with fire, debris, and the hum of collapsing alien technology. Humanity had survived the initial assault, turned the bloom into a weapon of retaliation, and shattered the Dominion's command fleet. But the main armada still loomed beyond the outer planets, a calculated, relentless force determined to erase Earth and all its inhabitants. In the orbital command lab, Dr. Elena Voss moved among her team, her calm precision hiding the weight of the moment. Every holographic feed displayed the incoming fleet, massive and imposing, yet already tainted by the chaos humanity had unleashed. "Estimated arrival in 3 hours, Liam said, fingers flying over the console. "They're regrouping, but systems are failing in half the fleet already." "Good," Elena said, eyes sharp. "We've forced them to overcompensate. They'll be slower, more vulnerable. And that's where humans strike." The plan was bold, audacious to the point of madness. Humanity would not simply defend, they would hit the Dominion where it hurt most. Dispersal units carrying the modified bloom were ready, programmed to strike the command cores of the incoming fleet while simultaneously reinforcing Earth's defenses. Humans had learned from every failure. Every exposure, every moment of desperation. And now, they were ready to turn survival into decisive victory. "Prepare the dispersal vectors," Elena instructed. "We have one chance to hit them before they establish orbit. Timing must be perfect." Outside, Earth itself seemed to brace for the assault. Fires still burned from the previous waves, smoke curled into the sky, and scattered militias were poised for ground defense. The people were exhausted, scared, and yet resolute. Humanity had survived extinction before, and now, they would define what it meant to fight as a species. The first wave of dispersal units launched. Nanobots carrying the modified bloom streaked toward the armada like invisible comets, silent and lethal. Sensors aboard Dominion vessels picked up anomalies, but the humans had anticipated every algorithmic countermeasure. These vectors weren't random, they were surgical, precise, and unpredictable. Chaos had become a weapon, and humanity wielded it with elegance. The first impact was spectacular. A heavy cruiser collapsed from within, shields failing as internal systems overloaded. Crew compartments sealed, life support failed, and the ship spun helplessly into the void. Its destruction was a message, a declaration that humans had learned to fight beyond expectation. "Secondary dispersal ready," Elena said. "Target the central fleet. Hit command modules and energy conduits simultaneously." Liam's hands shook slightly. "This is it, the whole fleet could collapse, or they could adapt and retaliate." "They won't adapt fast enough," Elena replied. "They're brilliant, yes, but they're predictable. And humans? We're chaos incarnate." The second wave struck with precision. Massive Dominion ships faltered as the bloom infiltrated internal circuits and biological systems alike. Crew members struggled to maintain control, but the pathogen had been engineered to bypass even adaptive alien countermeasures. The more they tried to stabilize, the more systems failed. The humans were not just fighting, they were redefining the rules of engagement. From Earth's surface, the sky was alive with flashes of destruction. The largest vessels erupted in fire, creating a cascading effect that spread panic and confusion across the fleet. Ground forces rallied, striking at scouting drones and orbital debris with renewed vigor. Humanity had become an interconnected force, a single organism acting in defense and retaliation. Command Corps destabilizing. Liam shouted. Half the fleet is offline. Excellent, Elena said. Now, final phase. We hit the core flagship directly. The modified Bloom, carried by advanced dispersal units, infiltrated the alien flagship systems. Internal explosions rocked the vessel as energy conduits overloaded. Shields flickered and failed. Navigation arrays collapsed. Alien officers, trained for millennia, were rendered helpless in the face of human ingenuity and unpredictability. Elena watched the feed, calculating the timing for the final strike. All units, converge on the core. Maximum efficiency. Do not allow them to recover. The flagship shattered in a brilliant display of fire and debris, the largest explosion visible even from the surface of Earth. The remaining Dominion vessels, bereft of command and coordination, fell into disarray. Some collided, some drifted helplessly, others activated self-destruct in panic. Humanity had done the impossible, they had turned a weapon meant for extinction into the ultimate counteroffensive. On Earth, survivors cheered, tears streaking faces smudged with soot and ash. Humanity had survived annihilation. Humanity had fought back, and humanity had triumphed. In the lab, Elena held the vial of the modified Bloom. It was more than a weapon, it was proof that humans, chaotic, resourceful, and unpredictable, could take any challenge and turn it into survival. She looked at her team, at the faces that had endured months of terror. And saw a reflection of the same stubborn defiance that had always defined humanity. We've won this battle, she said softly. But the galaxy will remember what humans are capable of. And if they come again, they will not find prey, they will find chaos. The Dominion command fleet, the pride of a galaxy-spanning empire, had been humbled. Their arrogance, their precision, their certainty had been no match for human ingenuity. Across Earth, humanity embraced the dawn of a new era, scarred, battered, but alive, and now aware of their own potential to survive, adapt, and dominate when cornered. Elena allowed herself a small, rare smile. For once, fear had been transformed into action. Desperation had been transformed into strategy. And a weapon meant for humanity's end had become their symbol of triumph. The galaxy had underestimated humans. The Dominion had tried to erase them. And in the end, chaos, unpredictable, untamed, human chaos, had prevailed. The war was not over. The universe still held threats, still held empires that assumed perfection could crush imperfection. But for the first time, humanity knew something they had always known deep inside: they were not weak. They were not prey. They were unstoppable. And that knowledge, more than any weapon, more than any virus, more than any victory, was the most dangerous thing the galaxy had ever encountered. Humanity has turned survival into a decisive triumph, proving that ingenuity, unpredictability, and the human spirit can overcome even the most precise, lethal threats. The galaxy has learned a lesson: humans are not to be underestimated. The silence after the storm was deafening. The Dominion fleet, once a symbol of cosmic terror, had been shattered, their command structures crippled by human ingenuity and chaos incarnate. From orbit, the remnants of alien vessels drifted like spectral wreckage, a haunting testament to the cost of underestimating humanity. On Earth, the first true dawn in months spread its light over scorched cities and ruined landscapes. Fires smoldered, but humans emerged from their shelters, blinking against the brightness, alive, exhausted, and victorious. The streets were littered with debris, yet the air was electric with hope, the kind born of survival and defiance. Humanity had faced extinction and had not only survived, it had conquered the impossible. Dr. Elena Voss walked through one of the hastily rebuilt command centers. Screens displayed scattered communications from the surviving Dominion vessels, most now silent, some attempting feeble signals of surrender. Humanity had not just fought, they had rewritten the rules of engagement, demonstrating that intellect, unpredictability, and willpower could rival the most advanced alien technology. "Do you think they'll come back?" Liam asked, his voice uncertain. He had been a shadow of fear for months, but now he walked taller, the fire of survival in his eyes. "They might," Elena replied, her gaze focused on a projection of the shattered fleet. "But they will not find the same humans. We've changed. They've learned that perfection can fail against chaos, and chaos is what humans excel at." Even in victory, humanity remained vigilant. Teams of scientists worked to refine the modified bloom, ensuring that what had been a weapon of survival could also become a safeguard against future threats. Ground militias patrolled rebuilt cities, sharing knowledge, strategies, and hope. The survivors were teaching each other that ingenuity, adaptability, and courage were as vital as any weapon. Across the globe, stories of bravery and defiance spread faster than any broadcast signal. People who had been trapped in quarantine zones, towns that had resisted the bloom's initial wave, and scattered communities that had improvised ingenious defenses became legends. Humanity's survival was not just a story of science, it was a story of spirit. Elena moved to the containment chamber, where the final vials of the modified bloom rested. Each was a symbol, a reminder of how close they had come to annihilation and how creativity and courage had turned despair into triumph. She held one in her hand, feeling its weight not as a threat but as a promise. A promise that humans could endure anything, adapt to anything, and emerge stronger. "Doctor," Liam said quietly, "the Dominion, they'll remember this. Across the stars, they'll know what humans can do." "They will," Elena said, a small smile tugging at her lips. "And that memory is power. Not fear, not hatred, but the undeniable truth that humans are never predictable, never weak, and never finished. We survive because we are adaptable, relentless, and willing to take risks no one else dares." Beyond the lab, the skies above Earth were gradually clearing. Debris from the destroyed fleet burned in the upper atmosphere, creating a surreal aurora of light and shadow. Humanity watched not with fear but with a sober appreciation of their own resilience. They had stared into extinction and had turned the instruments of their erasure into the tools of their triumph. Around the world, governments, or what remained of them, began to reorganize. Humanity had learned that old hierarchies, rigid systems, and complacency were dangerous. Survival required flexibility, ingenuity, and collaboration. Across continents, networks of knowledge, science, and strategy began forming, a new kind of human alliance that could endure even the harshest cosmic challenges. And somewhere beyond the remnants of the shattered Dominion fleet, scouts still floated in orbit, silent witnesses to the chaos humans had unleashed. The galaxy had learned a lesson, the species it had long dismissed as fragile, short-lived, and predictable was anything but. Humanity was not prey. Humanity was a force of nature, chaotic, brilliant, and impossible to control. Elena returned to the central console, looking at the map of the solar system. Stars twinkled far beyond, indifferent and eternal, yet humanity's presence was now a declaration. Survivors, scientists, engineers, and strategists, ordinary humans, had not only survived but reshaped the battlefield, redefined power, and demonstrated that the smallest, most chaotic species could turn the tide against perfection itself. "Prepare reports," she said softly. "Send messages to every settlement. Let them know we survived, that we adapted, that we conquered. Let humanity remember who we are and what we can do. And let the galaxy remember too." For the first time in months, Elena allowed herself to sit, letting the weight of survival settle over her. Humanity had been hunted, nearly erased, and forced to the brink of extinction. Yet they endured. They fought. They innovated. And they won. In that moment, a quiet certainty settled over her. Humanity's story was far from over. There would be other threats, other empires, other weapons designed to annihilate. But humans had learned the ultimate lesson: survival required more than strength, it required ingenuity, unpredictability, and the courage to embrace chaos. The stars above seemed less intimidating now, distant and beautiful, a canvas on which humans would continue to leave their mark. And humanity would continue to fight, continue to survive, and continue to thrive, for the galaxy had discovered a truth it would never forget: never underestimate chaos, and never underestimate humans. The bloom had begun as a weapon of extinction. Humanity had turned it into a symbol of ascendancy. And the universe would never be the same. Humanity survives extinction, turns a weapon designed to destroy them into a triumph, and emerges as a species defined by ingenuity, unpredictability, and unyielding spirit. The HFY theme concludes with humans asserting their place in the galaxy.